Go ahead.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are go.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC.
It's getting nice and heavy.
And now, welcome tonight's host, John the Vernomatic Verno.
Good evening, everybody. Thursday night, time for a brand new episode. We invite you to visit the metalmayhemroc.com website. There you'll find direct links to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. While you're there, do us a favor. Download some past shows, rate, review, subscribe. That stuff really helps. Past episodes, we had Nigel Glockler of Saxon last week promoting the Carpe Diem Seize the Day release. Tony Martin, ex-Black Sabbath singer. He has his Thorn CD, so check out some of those past episodes. Sign up for our email list. There you'll receive weekly updates on new shows and free giveaways. And just a quick reminder, some of our media partners, I host a live radio show of this very show on Metal Devastation Radio, Monday nights, 6 to 9 p.m. Great show, chat room, talk with bangers from around the globe. It's just a great way to end your Metal Monday. And an even better way to end your metal week is join Mark James on Mark's Audio Aggression and Mark's Vault. It's Friday and Saturday nights. Just go to our website, Metal Mayhem ROC, for direct links and info. Tonight's show, we have a good one. Well, they're all good ones, but tonight's a little special. We have a Rochester connection. We're speaking with Brann Dailor of Mastodon, drummer and one of the vocalists of the band. Like I said, original native of Western New York. He's down in Georgia right now, not dealing with the snowstorm we have. And he's here tonight to talk about the Hushed and Grimm's release, touring plans for 2022, and take a walk down heavy metal memory lane. Brann, it's an honor to have you on Metal Mayhem. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Let me quickly introduce my co-host for tonight, Metal Walt from New Jersey.
Hey, Brann, what's up? Pleasure.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Good.
And you know our old friend Bill Lander from Rochester, Order of the Dead, and you guys go back to the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Bill.
What's up, Brann?
That's my buddy.
Yeah, man.
So today, we're going to be talking about the new one. Like I said, Metal Walt's been listening to it nonstop for a couple weeks. Came out in the fall. You did some light touring, and you have a tour coming up, hopefully this year. Later in the spring. Congratulations on the release. And we wanted to quickly just do some housekeeping. This fall, you came down with a little touch of the COVID. Things good? You back to 100% or close to it?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, good.
I was out of commission for a couple weeks, but it was literally the day after I got home from, the day I left. The day the tour was over, I flew to Buffalo and went to that abysmal Monday night game with the Bills and the Patriots with 50-mile-per-hour winds.
Oh, geez.
Then I flew home and I tested positive right when I got home. So, and I felt pretty bad for about a week and a half or so, and I lost my taste and smell. But happy to say everything's back shipshape.
Well, excellent. I had a touch of it too, and thankfully, we're both here to talk metal. Before we take a deep dive into everything, Bill wants to say hello, and he has a quick anecdote to kick this conversation off.
Have you seen this picture going around the internet of yourself? Looks like you're from the late 80s, early 90s. I'm thinking 1990. Have you seen
that's
this?
actually, I think it's 80. I think you're close. I think it's 89. I would guess.
All right.
I think every single one of my friends, even Kerry King, sent that to me. It was like, dude, is this you? Gary Holt sent it to me. Dude, is this you? I'm rocking the Slayer shirt, but I'm getting roasted pretty hard out there in the old memosphere.
Dude, it's great. It's all the memes I've seen were good. It said This is how we checked the movie times in the 1980s.
Right. Yeah. There's no doubt I'm on the phone with my buddy Jay Feniger, checking to see if we were tripping on acid that night. But it's not a DiGiorno pizza in the oven. That's a Wegmans frozen pizza. So let's just get that straight.
Well, forensics was piecing this together by the combination of the clock, 5:15. Looks like parents aren't around, little after school munchies. You're like, dude, what's going on, man? And who took this picture?
I have no idea. I really have no idea. But I know that it was at my dad's, and I went to go visit him, and I snapped a photo of it, and I had put it on my Instagram years ago, and I don't know how it just kind of started floating around, but yeah,
good stuff.
I'm a meme now. Yay! Every warm-blooded American's goal in life is to be a meme. So there you go.
we all have those
it.
shots. You
I
gotta
did
see
it.
some of these pictures of Bill and I back in like '85 at Senior Skip Day. Those are hilarious. But
It was definitely, I will say, it was definitely a shampoo day because the poof is in full effect, and I hated that, and I'm surprised I let my picture be taken, because I usually would not shower most of the week just to have my hair lay down as flat as possible. But I guess I hit the Perp Plus bottle that morning, and the poof ball is in full swing.
Sweet.
well, let's get into it. The 8th studio album. It's a double album. Came out in October. Hushed and Grim. It's been quoted, the band, it's a tribute to a former manager, and there was a tour this fall. Tell us a little bit about it. I'm going to send it over to Metal Walt. He has his whole notebook ready to go. So, Walt,
all right,
it's all yours.
All right. So, Brann, just in a general sense, before we get into Hushed and Grim, each of the studio albums, including the new one, of course, they seem to have a general theme, yet they're all sort of different from one another. Yet individually, none of them can be really labeled as concept albums. Can you elaborate a little bit on this points and, your full body of work and kind of what you guys look to do as a band every time you get into the studio?
I think first and foremost, having a theme sort of helps us get unified when we're just with the artwork and the lyrical content. If we have something sort of to look at, sort of spelled out maybe beforehand, it just helps to as a just a direction, because otherwise I feel like when we're trying to write something that's all over the place and sort of loose leafed, it's more challenging for us. So I think that if we have something that's like a central theme to sort of build off of, they might not necessarily have like a narrative that you could follow, A, B, C, D, something with like real continuity. But there is a central theme to almost every record that we can build off of. And a lot of it really comes down to not just the lyrics, but the art that's going to be incorporated, because that's also really important to us. And we like to have those two worlds, make sense together. And the art needs to echo the music that's inside and all that. So I will say that, like, I feel like we have done actual concept records. I think Crack the Sky was an actual concept record. I think that Blood Mountain was an actual concept record, or the closest thing to it as far as like following a narrative from start to finish and trying to arrange the songs in a way that that went through those actual storytelling, in a King Diamond sense, or like Lamb Lies Down on Broadway type of aspirations. You know what I mean? Not really getting there, but having that be like something to look at as an example of what we wanted to try to do. Hushed and Grim is, the central theme is loss, and I had put forth this like sort of loose story that I wrote out and shared with Troy, since he was going to be doing a lot of the lyric writing alongside. He usually will come to me or vice versa and say, what are you thinking for this? Before we start getting into actual lyric writing, I have a few phrases written down, but I don't have anything solid just yet. So let's kind of team up, and Troy will come over to my house, and we'll sit down and start to sort of hash out what I think maybe the story is going to be and what the art is going to be, and try to tie in things from that.
Yeah, I think that, and you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was going to get onto that next because, Hushed and Grim, the vibe we get, it's a very, very deep album, very personal, very introspective, especially in that lyrical content. So I was almost going to say, what was the emotional state you guys were in during the song crafting, right? It's such great material, but it really feels like you were kind of in that grieving stages still, maybe because of management. Am I accurate with that sort of impression of the songwriting?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't just lose our manager. It was like one of our best friends. He was everything. So it wasn't just, I think people have the wrong impression when they think of, and they might not be wrong with some relationships, but you talk to some bands, they say, oh, that's our manager. They don't really, it's not exactly this big, major friendship between the band members and the manager. But for us, it was different. He was one of our best friends. I talked to him every single day on the phone, whether it was about, gossiping about what Slayer was doing, or, just good friends. We just hit it off, and we had a unique relationship with him. And to lose him that early was just sort of devastating for us, so we knew that the next thing that we did artistically was going to be dedicated to him, but we didn't know what was coming as far as a pandemic and everything that ensued. Really lent itself, if there's any silver lining for us, it really gave us time to really sit and unpack, how we felt about everything, and truly, as we feel, honor his memory to the best of our ability. Because in the past, we've been very vocal and put it out there since, I think, Crack the Sky, that this album's dedicated to this person who we lost. And like everyone, we've lost people, and it's always awful when you lose someone close. And for us, being musicians and artists, the way that we're able to deal with that is, you put it into your music, like everyone. But this was, all four of us lost someone real big. And not only that, he was just instrumental in our career, not just a great friend, but I don't think we'd be where we are if it wasn't for him, and he worked so hard for our band. He was our biggest cheerleader, and like I said, one of our best friends. So the extra time to sort of sit in it for a while and ruminate, because when everything slows down, those are the things that you're left with to think about, because you don't have all that busy work. And everyone pressing pause for a while really just gave us more time to sit and work on that and make sure it was, I guess, just right. So, yeah.
Appreciate you opening up and being honest. I think this is, after I read that lyrical book on the CD, I think any one of us as a human being, as you said, have experienced loss, but you can put yourself in the shoes of where you guys were, and you kind of feel what's in the tone of the songs, and even in the lyrical content. You can place yourself in your own personal settings, how you've gone through that. And I think that's what really is something that you're connecting with your fans on. So appreciate that.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, we there was moments while we were writing when, something mildly happy riff wise would enter the room, and then we would squash it, and be like, get it out of here. We're not happy, so, no, that's happy. We don't want to have anything, anything to do with that. So we were definitely concentrated on, dark energy, I guess, and that's where we wanted to be. And that's where we wanted the album to be. That's why early on, the template for the album art was going to be black and gray. And that was just kind of the whole feel. And that's what we were. It's not like a manufactured thing. Like, that's where we were as people. So.
Yeah.
Right on. Speaking of Crack the Sky earlier, from 2009, you that's when you started having more of a radio friendly sound, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And you started to become one of the main singers at that time. And you started to, that's when you initially became one of the lead vocalists. And explain to us how that came about and how it's evolved since then.
I mean, I got pressured into it, you know. Yeah. In the early days when we'd be driving around the van, you know, I would put on Stevie Wonder when you drove in the van, you had control of the CD player. So
yes, I know how that goes.
Yeah, so I would put on like Iron Maiden, King Diamond, Stevie Wonder, Genesis, all that stuff that I like. And it was kind of like having a new girlfriend or something where you get turned on to her CD collection or her album collection. And so it was like all four of us, even though we were sort of in a unified front of, you know, a certain few bands that we all knew that we liked, there was nooks and crannies of each other's musical likes that we didn't know about each other, like the classic country that Brent and Troy really like, or, you know, some of the punk stuff that Bill likes, and some of the prog that I liked. But I'd put that stuff on, Stevie Wonder, and I'd be singing along, you know, and those guys were like, man, Ron can sing actually, you know. But at the time, the drumming and the music was just so insane, kind of, you know, bordering, you know, more in a death metal type of place or thrash or something like that. And then when Crack the Sky came about, so back in those days, I would go, if I had like ideas for lyrics or how to sing something, because a lot of times, you know, vocals lay over a particular musical passage as another percussive instrument, almost the way that
Right.
the timing has to be, you know, the way they lay over something.
Mm-hmm.
So me being a drummer, you know, I have a different sense of rhythm than maybe some of the guys in the band. And I can go in and I have a lyric idea. I have how it should be, maybe how I think it should be sung, you know, and all ideas are welcome in Mastodon. We all, you know, it takes all of us to make a record. So we always are open to everybody's ideas, no matter, you know, if that's not your instrument per se. You know, I'll take drum, but if you have an idea for drums, I'm open to it, you know, and that's the way we all operate with each other. So they're not, the singers of the band aren't putting the kibosh down on anybody if they have an idea. So I would go in and lay down the track and sing it, and my voice was never right for any of the material. And so they would, you know, Troy would just mimic, maybe, you know, put his own flair on it, of course, but mimic what I did with the lyrics that I'd written, and Brent would do the same thing. But they would always just, you know, sing over that and then get rid of whatever I did. So it came time to do Crack the Sky, and we had written Oblivion, and I had an idea for the verses. So I went and sang it, and Brent was like, man, I really like the way that sounds. And I'm like, well, too bad, because I can't sing it and play it. And he's like, oh, how do you know? And I'm like, I don't know, but I don't want to open that. I don't want to open that door. You know what I mean? Because once you're that singing drummer guy, man, nobody wants to see that. You know, people are confused. They're in the audience. They're like, who the fuck is singing right now? I don't even see anybody. I'm trying to stare at the guy in the middle, and he's not doing anything. This must be a track or something. I don't know what's going on. So it's very confusing, and I get it. It's off-putting. People are upset about it, but, you know, anyways, yeah. We tried to get Troy to sing it and get it really close, because also Brendan O'Brien, the producer of Crack the Sky, was like, the last thing I want in the whole world, and no disrespect to you, Braun, but the last thing I want in the whole world is for the opening track, for the opening vocal to be the drummer. And I was like, hey man, I'm right there with you. I don't want to do this shit, you know. It's hard.
Well, Braun, I have a question. Commenting on that, what about your love of Genesis or some of those drummers that sing, you know, Phil Collins or Kelly of Night Ranger? Because you're right. There's not a lot of, not be metal, but even performer that are lead vocalists. Peter Criss dabbled in it back in the day.
Exciter.
Yeah, Exciter, some of the, you know, the heavier stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not ideal, because it's like singing on an elliptical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not good. Like, you know, your chest is rattling. You really gotta like stretch. You gotta. It's it's stressful for me. But anyways, I that's probably one of the only reasons why I decided to give it a shot, was because looking at, for years I've been watching Phil Collins do it, and I'm like, well, it's doable. I mean, Karen Carpenter, and well, people do it. It's a thing. Let me go see. So I said, so Brendan wanted to see if Troy could get close to my timbre, because there was something about my voice over that part that Brent really liked. And he was very adamant about it. He was like, I really like that. It sounds awesome to me. It gives me a feeling. And I don't know who's going to top it. And I'm like, okay. So Troy got real close and we listened to it and we were like, it's pretty like almost exact. Sounds like it, and we thought we were all good. And Brent's like, let me hear Bronze again. That does sound good, but let me hear Bronze again. Then they played mine and he was like, there's something about it, man. I'm sorry, but it just sounds better. I'm like, shit. So I went in my basement, or I went to the practice space. I said, let me see if I can physically do it, live. So I went and did it, and I felt like I could do it, right off the bat. I was like, oh, I think I can maybe do it. Okay. So I committed to it, and the way that it's evolved is pretty simple, over the years and I don't know, I mean, maybe Crack the Sky has some radio friendly moments, but I even think, Oblivion I don't know that song's on the radio. You know what I mean? It's
well, yeah, it's not a commercial song per se, but
it's pretty proggy. There's lots of parts and it gets a lot of time changes and time signature change. I think The Hunter would probably, for me, would be the most like, there's some like Curl the Burl is pretty radio friendly, I guess, but I don't know. We don't listen to the radio too much as far as like pop or
right.
active rock or anything like that. But I'll say, simpler song structures lead people to believe that, you're trying for this radio airplay, which we never are. We're just writing our music and it's just the four of us. And we're just like, hey, that sounds cool. Yeah, I like that. It's very knee-jerk reaction songwriting. But
hey, Bron, on that point, because I think this is a good time to get into the new album, right? I think what Bill and I did was we said, we're going to pick, let's say, our favorite tracks off of each of the 2 discs. We can't cover them all, 15, but we want to get into some of them. But so, talking about, let's call it the single Tear Drinker, right? I would say congratulations to you. Down by me in New Jersey, we have this killer radio station you may be familiar with, WDHA. I mean, they play this song all day long. It's getting major airplay, and you hear it on all the channels on Sirius XM, from Liquid Metal to Octane. And then, in a way, you have the video, right? I was checking out the video again last night, which is really cool, as you say, and it's important to the band. In a way, you have each of the 4 band members. They're sort of taking that spear out of the box, and, it covers the 4 elements: fire, water, earth, and air, which I know are something that you capture in your earlier albums. And then that kind of stone being that is crying with sand. So there's a lot of, imagery there. So in a way, talk about the achievement of this song and how positively it's been received, and a little bit about the concept of the video.
Well, the song came about maybe a couple years ago. I guess I was just messing around on an acoustic guitar and I was not in a good emotional place. I'll say I was going through some personal stuff, and all I really had was this acoustic guitar. And so I wrote probably I wrote just like 2 riffs, and I had strung these 2 riffs together, and I just kept coming back to them. And so when it came time to start writing for the new album, I brought them to Bill and went over to Bill's house, and we sat down in the basement and we just started working on that one. It was one of the first songs to come together in the writing process. And it really was. And as soon as it came together, and as soon as the chorus sort of came together, I was kind of working on it down in Bill's basement. I out of the group of songs that we had at that moment in time, I think we had 6 or 7 songs, and I was like, that'll be the single. You know, it's always sort of painfully obvious to us when one comes about, you know, whether it's Colony of Birchman from Blood Mountain, or if it's like Curl Burl, you know, you can just tell what's gonna, you know, it's nothing you can really manufacture. It's nothing you can go in and say, we're gonna make a song that can be on the radio. We're gonna make a hit song. We're gonna, you know what I mean? You just you have a bunch of songs going at the same time. You have your crop of songs for this new album. You get like 8 little seeds that you're watering on a daily basis. And this was one of them that sort of stuck out to me. I was like, well, that's obviously going to be the single, you know, unless something usurps it within the writing process, because, you know, we ended up with like 20 songs when everything was said and done. We had to scale back from that just to get it to 15, which ended up being an hour and a half. And, but the video itself, I mean, the title actually came from during the pandemic. My dog, there was a dog over at our house that has an overactive tear glands, and my dog Thriller was going over and licking her eyes like constantly, and so I started calling him the tear drinker, and then and then from there, I discovered that there was this moth in Madagascar that drinks the tears of sleeping birds, and I just thought that sounded super metal.
Wow. Yeah. It is metal.
Nice.
And then I found the moth, a picture of it, and I sent it to the artist Paul Romano, and I was like, you need to put this in the artwork. It's the tear drinker moth. It's totally fucked up. But the video really was the director like basically wrote out a big, you know, treatment, which usually I wrote the treatment for Pushing the Tides. And then I was like, man, I'm tapped out on video ideas. I'm good for like 1 or 2, but I'm like, man, that's my video idea and we already did it. So I need someone else to write something. And what he came up with was really, we thought it was cool, you know, and we had seen some of his computer, you know, generating work, and he's very talented, and so they call him Yellow, but his name's Lorenzo. So he's a great artist, and you know, yeah, it was a cool video to shoot.
It's awesome. It's great. Cool. So moving on. So onto the title track and the song More Than I Can Chew. The title track, again, for the listeners, this is a fast, short track. It breaks out real quick. It's got a big of that proggy riff. I kind of hear a little vintage Rush in there, and it kind of pulls you right into a catchy chorus. I mean, this one sounds radio friendly, and an next single written all over it. And then the song Chew, you know, I think this one, it's got that big, heavy main riff in the song, and then it kind of changes into this highly melodic yet equally heavy section later, and it's got some killer guitar work on it. But in the titles of the songs, and then there's certain lyrics, they really seem to articulate that struggle, and using air quotes, to kind of keeping one heads above water, untying the weight, trying not to go down under. And then that lyric, the great disruption from Chew, which I love. These come across as certainly seem to being about that struggle of trying to come to terms with loss, yet finding some positivity in a direction forward. You know, that kind of inner spirit to push back and push ahead. So I think these analogies, they certainly clearly paint that picture. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration around some of these lyrics.
I mean, it's like, you know, they're pretty obvious. I feel like there wasn't a lot of time for clever metaphor. But as far as Pushing the Tides, I think I started having some panic attacks during the pandemic, which I never had before. I never even had an inkling of having a panic attack, but I was getting a haircut, and I started having one, and I was just like, and this girl was cutting my hair, telling me that she's from Toledo or some shit, and I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, how fucking weird would it be if I just got up and left this chair during this haircut. Oh my God. Because I wanted to so bad because my heart starts pounding like crazy. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me right now? Like I'm freaking out. Like, I'm thinking she can't tell at all. She's just like, yeah, I moved here a couple of months ago. And I'm like, I'm going to leave. And it's going to be the weirdest thing you ever, you're like, this guy just got up and walked out. But I sat there and sat through it, and I got regrounded, and I was like, Jesus, what was that? And I looked it up, and they're like, yeah, basically you had a panic attack. Then I had one at the grocery store, and that kind of was I was like, I don't know if it had to do with just the overall state of things, you know, the way the world is now, or the way that the world was at that point in time, kind of the beginning of everything. But yeah, that's what I was going through, and that sort of lent itself to the lyrics for Pushing the Tides, as far as you feel like the anxiety is like this ocean trying to swallow you up, you know, and you're just trying to keep your head above it and fight through it and get to shore. So that's kind of that was for me, that was the inspiration for those lyrics. And I don't know if it was brought on by grief and just I think it just was everything, you know. And so I tried to, you know, a good way to try to understand the things that happen to you or the way that you feel about things is to write them down on paper. So I think that you know, for me, writing lyrics and trying to sink them into these emotionally driven, you know, big heavy riffs that are evocative for me is to, you know, try to couple that with some lyrics that are also of the same ilk. So More Than I Could Chew just sounded, I mean, just a big heavy, big heavy riff. There was definitely, it just feels like a struggle, but kind of pushing forwards, you know. Because I think the song pushes, as slow and kind of dirgy as it is, I think it pushes in the right direction, and I think is hopeful in the end. Like there's a reprieve at the end, and I think Brent's guitar solo at the end of that song is one of my favorites that he's ever done.
Well, Brann, that's tough. I've never dealt with anxiety attacks like that, but
you should do it.
Yeah, I got enough going on.
You should have one right now.
Just
That's too bad.
Walk off the Zoom call. There you go, right?
Yeah.
We're talking with Brann Dailor, drummer, Mastodon, the new one, Hushed and Grim. Now, like I said at the beginning of the show, these guys have taken a big deep dive. Uh-oh, we lost him. There he is.
I got it. It was an Amber alert.
Oh, no.
I can't find Amber.
We got a few minutes left, and then he has to get off to rehearsal for the tour. Bill wanted to take a deep dive into the rest of the album. So, Bill, refer to your notes.
Real quick, yeah. I want to talk about Skeleton of Splendor, which is one of my personal favorites. Love that song. It's a trippy song and has a bit of an unplugged feel to it, and even with some Pink Floyd-ish mid-70s keyboards layered in. And overall, it is a beautiful song. Yes, and I do remember telling you that early on when I first heard it. I love the song. The exchange between Troy and you is simple yet moving lyrics. To my detriment, I forge ahead unscarred. And that's a great song. Let's talk about that one for a moment.
Thanks. It's that was this kind of this arpeggiated thing that Bill had put together, the first half of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really pay much attention to it because it wasn't super developed, you know, and I had played along to it, but it was only like 2 little pieces and there was no vocals for it. And we had so much other material. It was like, I don't know what we're doing with that. It sounds cool and I dig it, but what is it, you know? And I think Troy went in with our engineer that stays at our studio while we were demoing everything. And he just took it upon himself. He got inspired and had an idea for some lyrics for that and just sang over top of it. And it really shot to the top of my list of like, oh, wow, that's actually really cool. And I dig that. And that we don't have anything that's like that on the album. And so I like I said, it shot to the top of my list of things to focus on. I said, let's focus on that. And because it needs another part. And we just started messing around with it. And I said, let's have like we need something big after all that arpeggiated stuff. And let's open things up, and so we came up with that kind of simple big chords section that closes the song out and has that big keyboard moment. And we didn't know that was going to really go there, but we had an idea for it. Like, maybe we can do something synthy there. I don't know. And our buddy Joe that plays with the Lennon Claypool conspiracy or delirium conspiracy, he just like mooged it up right there. And we're like, oh my God, I love that. That's like so tip your hat to Pink Floyd.
Yes, it's infectious.
And yeah. And that's become one of my favorite moments of the whole album, when that part kicks in, the mothership, is above you and you're ready to go to outer space. I love that. And
Very
it's
cool.
kind of ballady, it just fit. That's when things really started to come into picture for us, that the record was going to be this, I don't want to really equate it to this, but when Beck put out Sea Change, it was a sea change and it was different. And it just was, you're not going to get two turntables and a microphone. You're going to get this is where I'm at. And I'm going through a really hard breakup, and this is the album you're getting, which was beautiful. I thought one of my favorite, it's really the only Beck album that I like. But for us, where I was like, I'm cool. I'm okay with this, because when you go into something and you're Mastodon, we feel like this, well, we got to be heavy and fast and crazy and, fuck shit up and be this like death metal band, or be like every opportunity, we don't want to let our fans down and but the heart wants what the heart wants, and it just is what it is. And you just sort of start following it, and you're like, what, this is what it is. This is the vibe. And I think if you're honest with yourself, with your art, then it's going to connect with somebody. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of people, there's going to be people that don't like it. But I think that at the end of the day, that it's what we wanted, and it's exactly what we wanted to do. And it ended up being a little slower, a little more mellow, melancholy. That's how we were feeling, and it rides in tandem, like everything that you create rides in tandem with the general mood of the time, so
look at side 2, Bron. I think in side 2 of the album, I mean, Bill and I were talking about this, the songs Dagger and Had It All. I mean, they fit exactly what you're explaining now. I mean, Dagger, man, that's a deep, dark song, from the music to the lyrics. I mean, that tone and the perfect backdrop of it, the whole, and then you're drumming sort of the less is more concept. It's that simple drum beat, you got the little Arabic piece in there. And then on Had It All, it's like a really emotional song, and it really, really builds. You got that sort of melodic, unplugged feel in the beginning. And then you got Kim Thayil of Soundgarden fame coming in and doing that big dramatic song, and the lyric. And then you get into let's say my biggest and favorite track, maybe on side 2, is the Gobblers of Dregs, and this is like, I think, the kind of song that really is Mastodon at its finest. And it's the kind of track that defines who you guys are. It has it's an epic feel to it, right? It's got 2 distinct feels to it, almost like 2 songs in one. And then you have that kind of instrumental bridge. And that piece I just love. It's the rat-tat-tatting of the drum, and then Troy almost sounded a little bit like Chris Squire of Yes in there. So talk a little bit about side 2.
Yeah, I think because the album is so long, I think that people might get overlooked a little bit in the beginning. Maybe hopefully they discover it down the line, that there's a big epic stretch there from Gobblers of Dregs all the way through to the end of Gigantium, of 3 songs, that are some of them are most epic, I guess, for lack of a better term. But Gobblers is very much, it's like 2 songs, kind of combined. We had like 2 pieces put together that we had been playing for a while, and then we didn't know where to go. then we had this other thing, and we're like, wait a minute, if we just, fade and then bring that in, we should be good, and we'll have a nice big long epic jam. And we can bookend it and bring that first riff back right at the end, and it worked perfectly. It's not always these like eureka moments when writing an album is a big roller coaster ride, so you're just like bang your head up against the wall, like you don't know what to do with this song. It's not finished, but you don't know where the missing piece is that's gonna finally have you sit back and go, this song's finished. So it could go weeks and weeks, months, and you don't know, and then finally you find it and you're like,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of those I remember that moment of jubilation when we found the missing piece to Gobblers of Dregs, which the song title was something, it's like my father's a Buddhist, and it's a Buddhist cone, which is like a teaching tool that they use. And he was like, hey, this cone that we teach is called Gobblers of Dregs. And I always thought it'd be a cool, like, prog metal song title. And I was like, Dad, I'll do everything I can to work it into the next album. This is before we wrote a note for the album. This was like, months prior. And I called him up and I was like, Dad, your song title made it. Gobblers of Dregs.
It's awesome how we get the backstory on, where are these titles? There's not some big, it's just life. So
yeah,
we're gonna, Brann, we do a segment on Metal Mayhem called History of Metal. And we also have a segment called Mount Rushmore Metal. We're gonna take the last bit of time we have with you and go down heavy metal memory lane. Bill is gonna share some stories, and seeing that you are a native of Rochester, New York, that's gonna be the theme of our Mount Rushmore of metal tonight.
okay.
Many have tried, most have failed, only a few survived. This is the Mount Rushmore of metal.
Okay, so the subject tonight, I need your 4 best memories of Rochester, New York. Now, I'm putting you on the spot, and it doesn't have to be metal as much, but just, what do you, when you think back to your hometown of Rochester, what do you pull out of it?
Oh man. Well, I'd say Shalat Beach in the 80s was a rocking good time. With my mom's band used to play the Northwest Passage, and they used to play down there, the Penny Arcade all the time.
Yeah.
In the early 80s. And
what was your mom's band?
They were called Caper with a K, Kaper.
Okay.
And they did mostly covers, but they covered like Sabbath and Yes, and they covered everything. They would have to play for like 4 hours. So they covered, they covered everything. My mom was the singer. They did Priest covers. They did Led Zeppelin, Bowie, Boston, Styx, Cheap Trick, everything.
That's cool.
And so I think going down to the beach in the summertime, the 2 months of summer, going down to the beach.
It's longer than that.
Going down to the beach and jumping in the water over there, and then being told to get the hell out of there because the red flags were up, and
malaria and everything else you're gonna take.
And then being like, well, fuck it, we'll just drive down to Duran where there's no lifeguards and no one will say anything, and we can just go down there and swim there. So we swam at Durand a lot. And obviously House of Guitars is where I did all my school clothes shopping.
Mm-hmm.
I would go there and the people that worked there were mean to me, and they didn't want to talk to me. And it was like, I was talking about this recently. You'd go to House of Guitars and you'd be like, you'd know that your favorite band was going to put out a record eventually. You never knew when it was going to come out. And so you'd go down there and you'd find like one of the guys that worked the Chesterfield Kings guy or whatever. And you'd say, you'd bug them. You're like, hey man, hey. And they're like, what? They don't want to talk to you. And they're too cool. And you'd be like, hey, when is the new Iron Maiden album out yet? You know, and they'd be like, no. Yeah. Oh, okay. And that would be the end of the information. And you just have to like take a bus down there the next week and go and find the same guy. Hey, is the new Iron Maiden out yet? No. Turn around, walk away.
That's spot on, man. Or if they helped you, they said, yeah, it's over there, and it would be a pile of stuff.
Like, where?
Like, where?
Right. But that's the beauty of it. I think I met King Diamond there. I skipped school to go see King Diamond was at the House of Guitars, like signing autographs and stuff. And that's probably one of my favorite memories of Rochester. I don't know. There's too many. There's too many. I'm a proud Rochesterian. You know, I love the. I grew up on South Avenue, right across from the Al Siegel Center.
Okay.
And one of my favorite things used to happen over there were the wheelchair races that they would have during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. Like everyone that lived on South Ave that had houses that were across the street from there, they would all like put their chairs out front, and like it was like, you know, it was a thing. Everybody was sitting on South Avenue in their folding chairs watching the wheelchair races at the El Siegel Center parking lot. But
yeah, we're proud up here. We have a rich heritage, and like you said, the House of Guitars, Lakeshore Record Exchange.
Yeah, Lakeshore Record Exchange. That's where I found Metallica. You know, that's where I found.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I was introduced to King Diamond. I remember walking down there. I go in there and the guy was like, "Oh, you like this?" And that's the thing about like independent record stores that we can't let them go away. You know, I know that there's a lot of ways that people are able to get introduced to new music more so than ever. But there was nothing like going into the Lakeshore Record Exchange and having the guy that worked there take a vested interest in what you were listening to and then recommend stuff, you know, because I had never heard of King Diamond when I was 13, you know, so
yeah,
I didn't know who Merciful Fate was. I knew he's like, you like Slayer and you like Metallica and Megadeth? He's like, check these guys out. Check out Merciful Fate. Check out Korn, or check out, you know, whatever obscure like
Pile Driver, Exciter.
Yeah, Exciter. Check out Atrocity. Check out anything, all that, you know, check out, you know, whatever. Just it was always good to have Lakeshore Record Exchange. That guy, I don't know.
Ron Stein was his name.
Okay, well he turned me on.
Jackie Stein.
He turned me on to King Diamond. So thank you, sir.
Awesome.
Bill, you have a question? Something in memory lane, and then Walt's gonna wrap up with a couple quick tidbits, and we'll let you go.
What was my memory lane question?
Well, you guys go way back. How did you and Brann meet?
Well, actually, do you remember how we met? I remember. I don't know if you remember.
I think you drove me to see Sepultura, and it was 1991, and it was 91, and I was living in New York City, and I was up to visit.
Yes.
And it was the Clash of the New Titans, or New Titans on the Block, or something like
that.
There was
I think it was the new, I don't know, Clash of the New Titans. It was Sepultura, Sick of It All, Sacred Reich, and Napalm Death.
Yeah.
Maybe not in that order, but there was Sick of It All, Sacred Reich, and Sepultura.
Napalm Death.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was like, I think it was Barney's first tour or something like that. Maybe.
I think it was the second tour.
Okay.
Tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was a great show. I don't know if you remember, the whole night I was like, I'm not going in the pit. I'm not going in the pit, because it was insane. And finally Sepultura was playing, and I'm like, I gotta go in the pit. I was in there for 2 minutes and I got my lip busted.
We listened to Arise the whole way up and the whole way back.
Yes, we did.
That's what I remember.
Oh man.
And then we became buddies through and then after that we just when I moved back to Rochester, I started playing in a death metal band called Evisceration, and I think we played some shows with Matricore, and you were like managing them or something.
Yeah, I was like their helper,
lightly
manager.
Yeah. And then I was befriended Eric Burke, and then, you know, Lethargy started.
Yep.
And you were trying to hook up us with, because you were had been living in New Jersey and made friends with the Human Remains guys. So
You know it.
then in 1992, I think the Human Remains and Time's Up came and played in my basement, because I had a basement club called Club Braun.
Yeah.
And I had a huge party, and I had all these bands play in my basement. And the guys from Cannibal Corpse came to one of my parties, and everybody was so excited.
Oh yeah, everyone's like,
Wow, what a memory,
Cannibal
man.
Corpse
What a
is here.
memory.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
yeah, those
good
were
time.
good times, definitely.
Hey, Bron, we want to be respectful. You got to get to practice, but we just wanted to wrap up and talk a little bit about 2022. So I have an idea for you and the band. I'd like to see you go out and perform the whole new album back to back, an evening with Mastodon. Any thoughts to that? And what are you guys up to for 2022 in the States and also overseas? You're going to hit the European festivals. And then right before you leave, give us 1 minute on something we heard about your obsession with clowns.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I mean, an evening with would be cool. But it's it kind of like the camaraderie of playing with other bands and being out there on tour with other bands, but we would entertain it. If Hushed and Grim, I guess I'd check in with the fans first and see how much they would want something like that. You know what I mean? But I'm not opposed to doing it. I do like it as one big piece, and I'll be into playing the whole thing and plus some other goodies afterwards or whatever, or play the goodies first and then play the whole thing. Because yeah, I believe in the record, and I do think it's a strong piece. But I guess we'll check in with everybody. Is this something you guys want to see? The whole thing, top to bottom. Does anybody have the stamina for it besides us? As far as like future plans, we dipped our toes in touring. I think it went pretty well, but there was still a lot of like I don't know, the Decepticon variant had just been popping off, or Omicron, whatever you call it. It was popping off, and so there was a lot of people, like there'd be a lot of tickets sold that people just didn't come, like they just stayed home.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. So it was kind of crazy. I mean, the shows were great and they were pretty packed, but we just, the promoters noticed that people were buying tickets and just not coming because they're just frightened of being, obviously our industry is the last one to come back. It's like, let's get thousands of people together in a room and put them real close to each other. So if you're nervous about COVID or, that's not going to be for you. So that's a lot of people. Plus there's still a lot of people that are unvaccinated and don't want to get vaccinated. And then there's a lot. So most concerts, that you have to prove that you are vaccinated to be able to get in there. So that makes it so it's still kind of difficult at the moment, but we're hoping by spring, we'll probably announce something very soon that we're going to go back out, and we'll be doing something in the spring. And then, yes, we'll go over and do the summer festivals. Just fingers crossed that some crazy variant doesn't show back up and, shut everything down again. But I think it looks like everything's trending in the right direction to where we're going to be able to go do that in the summer. And then I don't know from there.
Yep.
And as far as my clown obsession, it's just something that's been building for many years. I have a clown room in my house. Some people might have read or heard about. I just like the aesthetics of a clown, quite simply. And then I kind of, there's a part of me that enjoys the fact that they freak people out, So I like that reaction from people. But I just like the way they look. And I think they look wild and fun. And I'm not a big fan of the creepy clown on purpose. I think that they're creepy just the way they are on their own.
Yeah.
But I also just like, I like old circus clowns like Lou Jacobs and Felix and all your classic clowns, back in the day. Yeah. They've infiltrated the rest of my house. They're not just in the clown room anymore. I walk downstairs, there's clowns everywhere. It's really starting to become a real problem. And don't be surprised if you see me on Intervention sometime soon.
Well, stop clowning around.
Yeah.
Guys, I'll let you say goodbye. Brann, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Sure.
And we'll see you on tour, and best of luck.
Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
Thank you, Brann. This was really cool, really insightful. Much appreciated. We'll see you in
Thank
New
you very
York
much.
and New Jersey area when you come around.
Hell yeah.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
it. Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Brann. Really good to see you and hear from you. It's been a while, so.
Yeah, man. I'll when next time I'm up in the Rock, I'll hit you up and we can hang out. And I miss you, buddy.
Miss you too.
He's doing all right. He's part of our show now. Bill and I go back to 6th grade. We've been best of buddies. And when I started
Awesome.
this platform a few years ago, I've always leaned on Bill, and he's
Bill's the best.
Yeah, he's a good friend. So thanks again, my friend, and best of luck.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
All right.
All
See
right,
you guys.
brother, take care.
All right.
All right. Want me to shut the recording off now?
Yeah, you can shut that off.
All right. Let me hit stop.